Krishnamurti, you go ahead and start.
Sahana bhavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sah viryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Mahaganapate namostute, Mahaganapate namostute, Mahaganapate namostute, Mahaganapate namostute, Mahatangavadana namostute, Mahatangavadana namostute, Mahatangavadana namostute, Mahatangavadana namostute, Girijanandana namostute, Girijanandana namostute, Girijanandana namostute, Girijanandana namostute, Parvati balaka namostute, Parvati balaka namostute, Parvati balaka namostute, Parvati balaka namostute, Omkareshwara namostute, Omkareshwara namostute, Omkareshwara namostute, Omkareshwara namostute, Vighna vinayaka namostute, Vighna vinayaka namostute, Vighna vinayaka namostute, Vighna vinayaka namostute, Mahaganapate namostute, Mahaganapate namostute, Mahatangavadana namostute, Mahatangavadana namostute, Girijanandana namostute, Girijanandana namostute, Parvati balaka namostute, Parvati balaka namostute, Omkareshwara namostute, Omkareshwara namostute, Vighna vinayaka namostute, Vighna vinayaka namostute, Mahaganapate namostute. Om Guru Jaya Guru Sachit Ananda Guru, Om Guru Jaya Guru Sachit Ananda Guru, Sachit Ananda Guru Chinmayananda Guru, Sachit Ananda Guru Chinmayananda Guru. Om Guru Jaya Guru Sachit Ananda Guru, Om Guru Jaya Guru Sachidananda Guru, Sachidananda Guru Chinmayananda Guru, Sachidananda Guru Chinmayananda Guru. Om Guru Jaya Guru Sachidananda Guru, Om Guru Jaya Guru Sachidananda Guru, Sachidananda Guru Chinmayananda Guru, Sachidananda Guru Chinmayananda Om Guru Jaya Guru Sachidananda Guru. Om Guru Jaya Guru Sachidananda Guru. Sachidananda Guru Chinmayananda Guru. Sachidananda Guru Chinmayananda Guru. Om Guru Jaya Guru Sachidananda Guru. Smita Smita Sundara Mukara Vinda. 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 Nacho Nandalala. Nacho Nandalala. Meera Mai ko pyara. Meera Mai ko pyara. Nandalala yadu Nandalala. Nandalala yadu Nandalala. Vrindavan Govindalala. Vrindavan Govindalala. Radha Madhava Nandalala. Radha Madhava Nandalala. Rasa Vilasa Nandalala. Rasa Vilasa Nandalala. Smita Smita Sundara Mukara Vinda. Smita Smita Sundara Mukara Vinda. Nacho Nandalala. Nacho Nandalala. Meera Mai ko pyara. 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 Nandalala yadu Nandalala. Nandalala yadu Nandalala. Vrindavan Govindalala. Vrindavan Govindalala. Radha Madhava Nandalala. Radha Madhava Nandalala. Radha Madhava Nandalala. Radha Madhava Nandalala. Rasa Vilasa Nandalala. Rasa Vilasa Nandalala. Rasa Vilasa Nandalala. Rasa Vilasa Nandalala. Smita Smita Sundara Mukara Vinda. Nila Megha Shyama Radhe Gopala. 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 Radhe Gopala. Hey Radhe Radhe Gopala. Nityananda Murte Radhe Gopala. Nityananda Murte Radhe Gopala. Nanda Kumara Navnita Chora 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 Radhe Gopala. Radhe Gopala. Hey Radhe Radhe Gopala. Nityananda Murte Radhe Gopala. Nityananda Murte Radhe Gopala. Pandarinatha Panduranga Radhe Gopala. राधे गोपाला पंढरीनाथ पांडुरंगा राधे गोपाला राधे गोपाला हे राधे राधे गोपाला नित्यानंद मोठे राधे गोपाला नित्यानंद मोठे राधे गोपाला वेणुविलोला विजय गोपाला 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 राधे गोपाला राधे गोपाला हे राधे राधे गोपाला नित्यानंद मोठे राधे गोपाला नित्यानंद मोठे राधे गोपाला नित्यानंद मोठे राधे गोपाला नित्यानंद मोठे राधे गोपाला श्री रामचंद्र जय रामचंद्र श्री रामचंद्र जय रामचंद्र रघुवीर रणधीर रघुकुल रामा रघुवीर रणधीर रघुकुल रामा श्री रामचंद्र जय रामचंद्र श्री रामचंद्र जय रामचंद्र दशरथ नंदन दयाभिरामा दशरथ नंदन दयाभिरामा दशरथ नंदन दयाभिरामा दशरथ नंदन दयाभिरामा दानव भंजन कोदंड रामा दानव भंजन कोदंड रामा कल्याण रामा कमनीय रामा कल्याण रामा कमनीय रामा कल्याण रामा कमनीय रामा कल्याण रामा कमनीय रामा रघुवीर रणधीर रघुकुल रामा रघुवीर रणधीर रघुकुल रामा श्री रामचंद्र जय रामचंद्र श्री रामचंद्र जय रामचंद्र रघुवीर रणधीर रघुकुल रामा रघुवीर रणधीर रघुकुल रामा दशरथ नंदन दयाभिरामा दशरथ नंदन दयाभिरामा दानव भंजन कोदंड रामा दानव भंजन कोदंड रामा कल्याण रामा कमनीय रामा कल्याण रामा कमनीय रामा रघुवीर रणधीर रघुकुल रामा रघुवीर रणधीर रघुकुल रामा श्री रामचंद्र जय रामचंद्र
Hari Om everyone. Welcome to day 1 Narada Bhakti Sutra by Swami Prakashanandaji. A few do's and don'ts that I need to inform you before we start the session. When you do login, please use your first name, last name, space with a dash, CM Alpharetta or CM Atlanta. If you don't belong to either of these locations, you could please put your first name, last name, dash, and the location from where you are. Okay, keep your video on the entire time so that Swamiji can see you, and also for security reasons. Use the speaker view to have the best experience. Of course, stay on mute during the lecture to reduce disturbance to others. Please don't scroll through the screens during the lectures, and also please don't walk around or drive with your camera on. Please be safe. Any questions that arise during the Yajna session, or if a question arises in your mind after the session, please email to yajna@chinmaya-atlanta.com. Any questions that arise during the session, you can private chat me at Krishnamurti Subramaniam at CM Atlanta. And Zoom session will end after the closing prayers by Swami. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Welcome.
Hari Om.
Welcome to all the delegates for this auspicious occasion of
Elevator.
Yajna by Narada Bhakti Sutras by our beloved Swamiji Prakashanandaji. We will receive Swamiji with the Purna Kumbham. Let us all stand up and receive Swamiji. Yeah.
संन्यास योगात्यतय शुद्ध सत्वाः ते ब्रह्मलोके तु परान्तकाले परामृतात् परिमुच्यन्ति सर्वे दह्रं विपापं परमेष्मभूतं यत्पुण्डरीकं पुरमद्य सक्कस्तम् तत्रापि दह्रं गगनं विशोकस्तस्मिन् यदन्तस्तदुपासितव्यम् यो वेदादौ स्वरः प्रोक्तो वेदान्ते च प्रतिष्ठितः तस्य प्रकृतिलीनस्य यः परः स महेश्वरः ॐ न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चन्द्रतारकं नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयमग्निः तमेव भान्तमनुभाति सर्वं तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। Hari Om everyone. We would like to have a small invocation now, invoking the blessing of Bhagwan Narayana as we begin our study of Narada Bhakti Sutra. Om Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gaganasadrasham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmikantam Kamalanayanam Yogibhirdhyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavabhayaharam Sarvalokaikanaatham Sarvalokaikanaatham Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Garudatvaja Mangalam Pundarekaksham Mangalaya Tanohare Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Garudatvaja Mangalam Garudatvaja Mangalam Garudatvaja Hari Om.
For the full invocation. Hari Om Swamiji, Swami Prakashanandaji needs absolutely no introduction to the most of the people over here now. He has been our guiding force for the Chinmaya Mission Atlanta and has been our beloved Camp Swamiji for the past several years. For the benefit of some of our of Chinmaya Mission family members who may be hearing Swamiji for the first time, let me just take a few minutes, very few minutes, to give a few details about our Swamiji. Swami Prakashanandaji, he was born in Trinidad. As you can see, he's there also now. He pursued his college education in Canada, got a degree in political science and philosophy over there. And as a very young person, it it only took him his first encounter with our Puja Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda, to spark a spiritual earning in him. And he requested permission from Puja Swamiji Puja Gurudev to take the Vedanta course. In 1991, after receiving his permission, he traveled to India and he studied at the Sandipani Sadhanalaya in Mumbai, and he completed that in 1994. And thereafter, he was assigned to give discourses at various mission centers in India and also in Nepal. Swamiji spent 6 years in India. And in addition to, as you will actually hear, he is a multitasker, as you will see that. While he was in India, he also pursued a law degree in the Banaras Hindu University. And he returned to Trinidad as Prem Chaitanya, Brahmachari Prem Chaitanya. And Puja Guruji, Swami Tejomananda, he initiated our Swamiji as Swami Prakashananda in 2005. The Chinmaya Mission Ashram in Trinidad and Tobago is absolutely the brainchild of our Swamiji. It was just a barren sugarcane land, and now it is transformed into this beautiful, productive, dynamic ashram. And over the 20 plus years, it has totally mushroomed into several activity centers too, both for academic and spiritual realms. And they also run schools under Chinmaya Vidyalaya with several centers in Trinidad, and they are impacting several thousands of children and citizens. Swamiji also conducted, as you will see that, I want to say like, it says hundreds, but I can say it's running into thousands now. Yajnas and spiritual camps all over the world and in Sanskrit and Vedic chanting. And in addition to this, he has done numerous charitable projects doing for the needy communities and families in Trinidad. For this amazing work, in recognition of this selfless community service, the government of Trinidad and Tobago awarded him the Chaconia Gold Medal in 2012, which is the highest honor for the selfless service to the community. We can't tell you how proud we are of Swamiji's endless services. In addition, like I said, this just list goes on, but I'll only conclude very soon. Swamiji has also conducted 3 residential Vedanta courses, and I believe the recent one was completed a couple of years ago. He has trained several brahmacharis and brahmacharinis to follow this path. It is absolutely amazing how Swamiji brings the entire community together for his annual melas. It is personally my goal to go to Trinidad during one of these melas and enjoy the atmosphere and also enjoy Swamiji's special tea. And I miss that, miss not having him here. And we truly miss not having him, the in-person camps, but where we get the 3-day full days of spending the time with Swamiji, the campfire, and his evergreen jokes. And though we may have heard it before, every time you hear it, it just seems like the first time, and we laugh so much. So hopefully our current situation will end, and we are hoping Swamiji will come to Atlanta as soon as possible and be here for our next Labor Day camp or sooner. So welcome, Swamiji, and it's we are so happy that you are able to spend this week with us. So let us all revel in Swamiji's presence this week, and as he imparts the knowledge of the Narada Bhakti Sutra. So Hari Om, Swamiji.
Thank you. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswati Namaha. Om Shri Gurudevaya Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om to all the people of Atlanta, Anu, our dear Dr. Raghuji, Itama, and Shiva, Sushma, all the people who are listening in Alpharetta everywhere. And this morning, Ramji told me that he is in India and he might be listening also. So Hari Om Ram, if you're listening. Okay, and welcome to all of you to this Narada Bhakti Sutra. I saw somebody abbreviated that NBS. Narada Bhakti Sutra. That sounds like a television station or something like that, like CBS and all. Anyway, so welcome to Narada Bhakti Sutra Yajna. And in these few days, we'll be seeing some of these sutras. I gave some numbers. I don't think we'll be able to see all 84 sutras. I don't think we'll be able to see the numbers I gave also, but we'll see how much we can finish in this. Because they are sutras. A sutra means a thread. Like this. If we unravel this thing, first there are these three. And now each one, if you unravel again, oh, vapre, it goes on and on, you know. The unraveling has no end. This is a sutra actually. It's like a thread, and it's made up of countless fibers, and some of them very subtle. Some you can't see, you see. Very subtle, some of the points that go into sutras. So what we have in our two main traditions is this. In Jnana Marga, we have three main texts which call us Prasthana Traya. Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, and Brahma Sutra, like this. There is a Jnana Marg on this side. On this side, Bhakti Marg, this other very, very strong tradition of India, we have also Prasthana Traya. in this Bhakti Marg. And what is it? There's Ramayana of Tulsidas Ji, Bhagavatam, and Narad Bhakti Sutra. So if you see both of them on the top, this sutra is there. And really, what is on the bottom is the expansion of the sutras only. Sutra is just packed with so many ideas and so many fine, subtle fibers of philosophical thought. So, in this Bhakti Marg, this Ramayana, Bhagavatam, and Narad Bhakti Sutra, they are the authority. And you know, people who are in this Bhakti Marg and all, they say, Arey, what you all are studying all these Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, and Brahma Sutras and all. You all don't get any rus. There's no rus in what you do, dry. You have to come here for some rus. So, we are going to be studying now what is the Sutra of the Prasthanatraya of this Bhakti Marg. It is called as Narada Bhakti Sutra. It is said that these sutras were given by the great sage Deva Rishi Narada. See, we have different types of rishis are there. And among the devas, the devatas, one rishi is there. His name is Narada. And he's a globetrotter, you know. He's an intergalactic traveler. He doesn't need Elon Musk or anybody to go anywhere. He doesn't have to book any ticket or anything. He just goes like that by himself everywhere without passport and visa and anything. And then you know of his arrival. When he comes there, he just says Narayana, 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 like that. Now, I'm sure all of you would have seen these pictures of Naradji, all these films where he enters there with some veena in his hand, kartal and all like that, right? Chanting Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. And people know this Naradji as, well, many people know him as a troublemaker or one who carries news. Actually, it is said Naradji was the first journalist. He used to take news from one place to other place and all. Anybody who is aspiring to be a journalist should study Naradji's life. So he carries news here and he tells that, and in Trinidad language we say he sets fire. Well, not sets fire, we use another word, but you will not understand that word. So he sets fire here, he sets fire there, means he causes trouble here and there, puts some little idea in somebody's mind, and that thing causes a lot of trouble to others, and like that. So that side of Naradji usually is portrayed in the films and the movies and all the things that you see, what you call serials and all. But there is a very, very, very serious and very profound and deep side of that Naradji, because of the name, because of which he's given that name, Deva Rishi. He's a Rishi among the Devas, you see. So on that side, if you see, it is Narada who inspired Ved Vyasji to write Bhagavatam also. The Naradji who prompted Ved Vyasji. The Naradji who could see through the mind of Ved Vyasji, who is Jnana avatar of Bhagavan Vishnu, who himself could not see his own mind. And I compiled all the Vedas and I have done, written Mahabharata, and I've done so many things, and yet still I find no fulfillment, no contentment like that. And that Purnatvam is not felt. And what is the cause of it? He himself could not see through his own mind. But it was Naradji with his subtle vision to see through the mind of the sage. Tell him, oh, this is what you have to do. Write the glories of Bhagwan in Bhagavatam. See, inspired by this great Deva Rishi, Ved Vyasji wrote the Bhagavad Puran. You all know this story and all, you see. It was Naradji who inspired Dhruva. It was Naradji who is said to be Trikala Darshi. So the other side of Naradji's personality is not so well seen or so well propounded. And it is that Naradji who now brings authoritativeness to this Narad Bhakti Sutra, which we will be seeing. Otherwise, when you're studying something and then you ask, oh, so who wrote this? Who gave this? Who spoke this? And oh, that person. So don't, when we are thinking like that, don't think this is the other Narad which we see in Ramayana, and he's acting some nice role there. Just like he comes to act along with Bhagwan. But it is in Naradji whose subtle vision could make him see right through the mind of any sage, including Ved Vyasji. All right. So this Naradji is given these sutras on Bhakti. Now, I think we'll have to go on to see these sutras. It is this Narada Bhakti Sutras, they're 84 in numbers, depending on which edition or which sampradaya you belong to. And sometimes they're divided into 5 chapters, 8 chapters, different sampradayas divide them into different chapters. And also, different sampradayas will give different meanings to those sutras also, because you know that some sampradayas are Dvaita, some sampradayas are Advaita, some sampradayas Vishishta Advaita, like that. So depending on where that sampradaya falls, it will give different ascriptions to the words which are found in the Narada Bhakti Sutra. Now you see, I'm telling this because you know where we stand. The Chinmaya Mission is purely Advaitic Sampradaya, isn't it? Bhagavan Shankaracharya, Advaitic Sampradaya. So whatever we will tell in the Narada Bhakti Sutra, you may hear something or read something else somewhere, but that is only because it is propounded by that Sampradaya in that way. All words are like that, you know. All words and ideas and thoughts, they are like that. They are open to interpretation based on each person's vision and his depth of understanding and all such things, or the premises by which he lives his life or sees the world, his worldview and all that. You know that. Okay. So what you're going to expect in these 6 days we have, no? 6 days? In these 6 days is what we study in Vedanta. And what does Bhakti mean to a Vedanti? Like that. What does Bhakti mean to a Vedanti? All right. So now we will go into these sutras and we'll go slowly and see exactly what Naradji says. Let us see what he says first, then we'll see. So, because you have been studying Gita, you've been studying Ramayana, Bhagavatam, all Upadesa, so many things you study, right? All of these things are composed and written in metered verses. But this is one difference between metered verses and sutra. What? No meter, no chanda. Not chanda bhanga, just no chanda. It is what we call prose, like that, prose order. No, you don't find any metered lines and all that. There's some short lines, longer lines, and that go on like that. Sentences as though. This is how sutras are usually written. Okay. Now see this first sutra of the first section. You all are projecting? Okay, I think you might see it up on your screen there. I don't have a screen in front of me. I have a sole lone camera right here. So I'm just looking at some. Raghuji was saying just now, I'll be able to see. Maybe tomorrow I'll bring my computer and keep it here and I'll see some of you. All right. So now see this sutra, first one. Very simple introduction by Naradji. What is the introduction? Athato bhaktim Vyakhyasamaha. End. See how easy. And I don't think we can sing also, but we try. because there's no raga, no meter, no nothing, right? Okay. Atha, ataha, atha, ataha means now therefore. Atha means now. Like when you're doing puja, Atha ganta nadaha, you say na, now the nada of the ganta. Atha, we say now. Like that. So atha, now, therefore, tataha. Now therefore, bhaktim vyakhyāsyāmaha. That we shall expound on bhakti. That is all. But that is not all. It looks like that is all only. Yeah. Now, therefore, we shall expound on bhakti. And I'm sure many of you will be having Puja Gurudev's commentary on this and all. So you can go ahead and read all the different commentaries Gurudev has given such nice, way back in 1959. What you're reading there, a commentary of Puja Gurudev of 1959, so long ago. I mean, before 59. I mean, many of us were not there. So you can read all of those commentaries. And briefly, then what it is telling is that now, therefore, we are going to expound on bhakti. We are going to make commentary on bhakti. So now, therefore means what? Now, therefore can mean anything, actually. Now, therefore, Puja Gurudev says, now, therefore, since we have acquired all the qualities required for this higher study or deeper study of bhakti, now since we have acquired all the qualifications, not everything has qualifications, you know that, na? To go to the next class or to go to university, you have to finish high school. How you'll go? If you don't finish high school, you can't go to university, you see? This is the requirements or the qualifications is acquired here in high school. Then only you were able to cope over there in university. So in the same way, now that the person has acquired all the great qualities required for the deeper study of bhakti, now therefore we will expound on bhakti. Like this. This is one meaning. Some sages say, ataha means, since I have already expounded on jnana and karma, now therefore let me expound on bhakti. That also is one meaning. You can't tell, you see, because only two little words are there. So since I've already expounded on these other topics, now let me expound on bhakti. It could have been a Naradaji also. Spoke about jnana and bhakti before. There is one possibility also. All right. So Puja Gurudev tells the first meaning of ataha means now that we have acquired all the great qualities for the deeper study of bhakti, now let me expound on bhakti. Now, what are those deeper qualities? You will see a list there he has given, and he has quoted the Vishishta Advaita tradition, which gives qualities that we all have to acquire. The first of it is Viveka, and which they describe there. See, if I'm going to study devotion, I'm going to study devotion to the Lord, right? I must be endowed with certain basic things in my life. And the first one given there is Viveka. And Viveka is described then as our Viveka, What we describe Viveka is between the discrimination between what is real and unreal, what is temporary, what is permanent, like that. Our Viveka is described like that only. Nitya vastu vivekaha. No such thing. Buddhya viveka. We must have discrimination with regard to food. What a simple thing. But it's not, see, simple word I should not say, but ordinary thing. It only sounds ordinary, yeah? But it runs deep into any sadhaka's life. Simple thing about discrimination with regard to food. And so you know that what we have is sattvic food, rajasic food, tamasic food, like that. So I should discriminate very, very carefully. This food will not promote this type of vrittis in my mind. this type of food will promote undesirable vrittis in my mind, like that kind of thing. You see? So I have to be very discriminative in the things that I choose to eat. And our Puja Gurudev used to describe food as not only what we eat through our mouth. In our tradition, food is all that comes through all our senses and all, you see? So that type of discrimination. And like that, there are several qualities one has to develop. Abhyas, practice. So he gives a list there. You can go down and see that whole list. Vimukha, what nice qualities are there? Vimukha means for really studying deeper devotion, one has to develop this. See, mukha means face. Mukha. And what is vimukha? When I have turned my face away from the world. That is called vimukha. Turned my face away from the. Otherwise, we take on the world head on, you know. You're running after things in the world. So my senses are directed pointedly towards all things in this world, and I'm going with a great speed. It's a fast pace. Vimukha eventually will mean what? Dispassion. When we say turn face, we don't mean that you walking this way, but you're turned this way. Not like that. Don't think that we are telling literally. So on vimukha. So like these, you see these qualities. How nice. It's different type of qualities are given. Kalyan. One has to develop. One, all the great values, virtues, all such things which we know, like charity and compassion for other beings, and the different types of kindness, kripa, all such things we have to develop. It all comes under that quality called as kalyan. So if a person doesn't develop all of these things, bhakti will not sit properly in him. That devotion, love for the Lord will not sit properly in that person. You see, the qualities need to be there as a foundation. Like you put a chair on the ocean or what? You put a chair on the ocean and sit. Well, nothing will happen. Well, something might happen bad. So the good foundation has to be there. After developing these qualities, now that the person has achieved, and I told you can go ahead and study them, achieve a certain amount of balance, a certain amount of goodness, a certain amount of purity in his own heart, then he is ready to study higher, deeper, subtler things with regard to bhakti. Now, many people feel that bhakti is, and many people get confused with this also. Bhakti is love. Bas. It's not so simple. Because people love all sorts of things in this world, anything. I love my watch. So I have what, bhakti for my watch or what? It is not that simple. Now therefore, he says, we'll expound on the deeper meaning of this bhakti. And in the very famous sutra of this Narada Bhakti Sutra, there in number 2, you see this. And why I was telling you in the beginning that we really don't know how much we'll finish in this text, because when you encounter sutras like this, it can go on and on and on. The sutras are so nice, huh? You can go on and on. So let us see this now. Number 2, he's trying to now pen a definition for bhakti. Because that is what he said. We are going to expound on what is bhakti is. And when the student has developed its sufficient gunas, qualities, then he is able to understand these things. Now see, what is that? Satu asmin. Satu asmin when joined up in Sanskrit. Satu asmin. Parama prema rupa. Satvasmin parama prema rupa. Okay. So there are several words there, small little words, ordinary words, simple words. but strung together, it becomes a very powerful, like small little fibers by themselves individually, really fragile, but strung together, they become very powerful. The rope becomes very strong. Now see this sa. Sa is Sanskrit for she feminine, that feminine. That feminine what? Bhakti. Bhakti is feminine in Sanskrit. That bhakti, sa, the bhakti which he told, I'm going to tell in Sutra number 1. Sa, tu, indeed, is asmin, in this, parama prema rupa. It is, that bhakti is of the nature of supreme love. Supreme love. Parama prema. It is by nature supreme love. In what? Asmin. And this is the most interesting word in this sutra. Puja Gurudev translated Asmin in that. Asmin literally means in this. Swami Shivanandaji Maharaj translates as this, in this. One Mahatma is translating supreme love in that. Another Mahatma translates supreme love in this. Literally it is this. Asmin. Tasmin is that. In Sanskrit, there are two words like that. One is called asmin, in this. Tasmin, in that. So, supreme love for that. Supreme love in that. Now, this is literal, word for word meaning and all. What is this bhakti? Supreme love for that, or supreme love in this. Now, that also doesn't sound very intelligible, isn't it? Or anything then. Now, let me just back up a little bit, and I'll have to give you a nice introduction or some background talk to come back to this sutra. So if you find that I am going here and going there, don't worry, I'll come back. Okay. So now see. You tell. We just study a little bit of Upanishadic thought or Vedantic thought. In this world, all of us say that we love things. I love this thing. I love that thing. I love that person. I love Bhagwan. Like that. So the first thing is, it is always I and then love and then the thing. Correct? Or the person or being or whatever. Right? So I love. Now, just study very slowly. I love and then dash. Dash? Line. And then you fill the line. You please tell, and don't think as a fanatic. Think real. A fanatic means somebody has told you something and you have accepted without thinking. Real means whatever you experience and whatever you feel, not what others told. They're two different things. So now, think real. Among all the things in this world that you see, I love, and then a line, and you fill in that line. Among all the things in the world that we can love like this, you please tell which thing you love the most. Well, people will say, I love my children the most. I love money the most. I love my spouse. I love my house. I love my mouse, or whatever I love the most. And if you meet any devotee or any such person, you say, I love Bhagwan the most. So everybody will fill in this blank here. Blank you call. Fill in the blank. I was thinking dash, it doesn't sound proper. No. So this blank. So some people will fill that blank with different thing and some others with some other thing, right? Okay. Now you think, really speaking, that blank there is to be filled with oneself. No matter what any devotee says or what anybody in this world says, everybody loves himself the most. You please see this. Suppose I say, I love Bhagwan more than myself. Because some people say like that, no, I love you more than my own life. Have you heard people say? I love you more than my own life. If you die, I will die also. Some people say like that. So, no, one fellow was one wife was asking that husband, if I die, you will die. He said, my dear, that is my habit. It's so much like. So, if we say, I love this person, right? Really speaking, if you do little bit of thinking, a little bit of deeper thought, and the person means Bhagwan also, this may break some people's heart, but I'm telling the fact of the matter, the truth of the matter is everybody loves himself more than anybody in this world, including Bhagwan. I'll just show you how. See, suppose I say, I love Bhagwan more than my own self. Suppose I just tell like that. And then I go to meet Bhagwan. And Bhagwan gives me a good beating and sends me back. Right? So then I come back and I say, no. Bhagwan must have made a mistake, Why would he beat such a nice devotee like me? I have so much of love for him and he beat me. Maybe he made a mistake. Let me go back again today and I'll meet Bhagwan and I'll prostrate and I'll do puja and I'll take naivedya and I will take phalam and whatever. I'll go there. And I go again with all of that and Bhagwan beats me. So I do 108 times because I am a good devoted Hindu. So I go there. And 108 times Bhagwan beats me. What will happen? Each time I go there, I'm expecting love from Bhagwan. I'm expecting compassion from Bhagwan. I'm expecting something there. And in return, I'm getting something else. Then what will happen? Eventually, I will say, 108? Bhagwan also doesn't have any respect for 108. At least 108 times he beat me. 190 should have spared me. So the idea of love for a certain thing in this world, whatever it is based solely on whether that thing can provide to me happiness. In the final analysis, this is the measuring rod that the jiva is left with. He has no other measuring rod. He loves something because that's something he thinks gives him joy. He doesn't like that thing because he thinks that thing gives him sorrow. So his measuring rod for love, or the thing that is responsible for evoking love in his heart is what? The thing that is responsible for evoking love in his heart is the thing which evokes happiness in his heart. The human being is guided only by sukha prapti dukkha nivritti. He's only guided by that, nothing else to guide him. And it is based on that he develops love for a thing or dislike for a thing. That is the idea. So now what is this bhakti and bhakti marga? Two things are there. What is the bhakti and bhakti marga? So the first thing is the human being loves himself most. I will come back just now to Bhakti Man. Human being loves himself more than any other thing. Second thing is, which part of that human being is loving himself? The part of the human being that is loving himself is called as ahankar. The antakarana is made up of four pieces, four aspects. Mana, chitta, buddhi, ahankar. So it is ahankar who is the driver. He is the one who loves himself the most. And if there is something in the outer world that evokes joy in him, we are not saying that the joy is in the thing. We are saying that thing evokes joy in him, then he loves that thing. And if that thing evokes sorrow in him, then he doesn't love that thing. So it is this ahankar, which is the faculty, which is doing the loving or hating, based on a very simple thing. What is that? Whether the thing can evoke joy or sorrow in him. Okay. So now this first thing. Based on this, he loves himself the most, because if he pursues anything in this world, it is he's pursuing that thing to bring some joy to himself. He may pursue something to bring some joy to his children or to bring some joy to his spouse, like that. He may pursue something to bring some joy there. But when that person gets the joy, that gives him joy. So in the final analysis, who is the desire of joy? Like I tell people this, a very good example. See, mother gets up in the middle of the night. She sees baby sleeping there. Baby has wet the bed, as babies do. Then the mother takes the baby from the wet bed, puts the baby on her dry bed, and she sleeps on the wet bed. And we say, what a selfless act of sacrifice, love, and all such things, huh? But the mother doesn't want the baby to get sick by sleeping on a wet bed. So she prefers to sleep on the wet bed and let the poor baby sleep on a dry bed, like that. Okay. But if you analyze, you will see, if the baby falls sick, that may bring some sorrow to the baby. Baby also doesn't know. He'll only cry, wah. But no mother likes to see their own babies sick, isn't it? So seeing my baby sick will really wring my heart, break my heart. That sorrow she wants to avoid. Because if the neighbor's baby falls sick, no problem. But if it is my baby that falls sick, it is going to break my heart. So it shows that the seeming act of love or compassion or whatever it is also still in the final analysis comes down to whether that act will bring joy or sorrow to me. So who he cares about the most? Well, he cares about the most himself. He cares about himself the most, you see. So please understand this basic and fundamental psychological state of a human being, a jiva. Huh? He cares most about himself. That means what? He loves most himself. Now, and I said, which part of himself? The ego. It is most wonderful that in this Bhakti Marg, there is a different approach to treat that ego. And in the Gyan Marg, there is a different approach to treat that ego. Huh? I'll tell you. In Gyan Marg, you have heard our great exponent of Gyan Marg, of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi, for instance, or Bhagavan Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita tells such nice verses. See, ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvataha hipatatyaham nija vicharanam. You heard? He says, you think. Now, this is the same person thinking about his own ego, his own little I, what we call little I, transactional empirical I, right? You think about aham, I am, kutaha bhavati. From where does this I arise? And we go on thinking like this, then what happens? Ai patati aham. Oh, the I drops like that. So now this is Gyan Marg. We have to ask, oh, this I is arising, this individual I. वो कहां से आ रहा है? Where is he coming from? कुतः भवति? So this is Gyan Marg treating that ego. Then what will happen to the ego? Dissolves. Bhakti Marg, tameva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata. Oh Bharata, you surrender to that reality. Now, who are you going to surrender? Ego only. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata. Tat prasadat param shantim sthanu prapsyasi shashvatam. Means, my dear Arjuna, that ego you surrender, means sarva bhavena, with all your feeling, all your personality, bring together every strain of your existence and surrender to that reality, surrender to Bhagwan. No, see, this is nothing like what? Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvataha. No, nothing like that now. Yeah? The ego surrenders to the higher reality, to Bhagwan, to whatever great idea, concept we have been taught in the scripture. The ego surrenders to that. What? I have no existence at all. It means I thin out my ego. I whittle down the ego down to nothing in front of that reality. And it is you only who have all reality in front of me. In front of you, I am nothing. Surrendering totally to that. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata. The ego surrendering to that reality. Then, by his grace, by the grace of that reality, tat prasadat param shantim. By grace of that reality, this person, shashvatam shantim, he reaches that supreme state of prapsyasi. He will reach that state. So, here it is surrendering, and it is the grace of the reality ever available to flow through a surrendered ego. The grace ever available, ever beaming like the sun, ever beaming light. So in Gyan Marg, in Bhakti Marg, this is the way to treat that ego. In Gyan Marg, that is the way to treat the ego. But he asks, where are you arising from? You watch, ask, watch, ask. And here, there's a total surrender. Right. So now, whichever way we go, whether the Bhakti Marg or Gyan Marg, whichever way we go, now see the result here. Now, just now I was talking about treating the ego in whichever marga. Huh? Now result. What is result? Aipatati aham. The aham vanishes. Then what is left? Supreme reality. State of merging. Here, individual ego surrendered. What is left? Bina Bhagwan ki ichha, हिल न सके एक पत्ता. The individual ego is not left here. Bhagwan's grace flows through that individual and everything happens. You see? So in both cases, either this side or this side, in both cases, what happens is the individual ego is deferred in favor of something bigger, something greater, something purna, something overarching, something wondrous, like that, in both cases. Then what happens? The individual comes to realize in both the cases, I am part and parcel, inseparable, inextricably bound to a bigger reality. This is the result now. Now, in this result, where there is now an expansive identity, an identity from Dehatma Buddhi to Sarvatma Buddhi, right? But there's an expansive identity, an identity of Purnatvam. Oh. This Jiva, who was hitherto looking for a little bit of joy in that thing, looking for a little bit of joy in the other thing, looking for a little bit of joy everywhere, comes to realize, Are, my very nature is joy. And he was loving that thing because that thing could have evoked some joy. And now when he finds that his nature is joy, now what he'll have? He will have an unrestricted, unbounded, limitless feeling of love just bubbling out of himself, isn't it? Because his very nature, he was loving things in the world because he perceived that they could evoke some joy. And that is called as Parama Prema Rupa. This is what we call, what is there in the last part of you. And this is why now two Mahatmas are giving two different translations for the word Asmin. Literally, the word Asmin means in this. Gurudev translates in that. Swami Shivanandaji translates in this. Because for a bhakta, it is surrendering, love and surrendering to that. And for the jnani, it is the I, patati aham, the I dies in this. The I dies in this only. What? In the reality. Mai eva sakalam jatam. Mai sarvam pratishtitam. Yato vai mani bhutani jayante. Yena jatani jivanti. All you Upanishad think talk like this only. But it's Jnana Marg, and it is this. It is in this reality. From this reality arises I, and into this reality dies I. And in Bhakti Marg, that. But what happens in the end, in both cases, the ego goes, and when ego goes, the Atma Buddhi goes. An identity with just a limited, restricted, localized body, that goes. And when that restricted, localized feeling goes away, there is Sarvatma Buddhi, there is identification with the whole. And that is why the masters in Jnana Marga, see our Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi, for instance, for Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi, Bhakti is Jnana Nishtha. That is called establishment in one's own self. There only I will be able to feel this supreme love, because my love is tagged to sukha. And if I have come to identify with the ocean of sukha, what will be the extent of my love? Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. Following in the wake of my own self. This is bhakti. Means being one with myself. You see? So, the word, Naradaji so nicely puts asmin there, which satisfies both the things. Then in the end, you see, whether it is Jnana Marga or Bhakti Marga, the individual still is the measure of all things. And when that individuality dies, merges, dissipates, whatever you want to say, you just all words are there. Vanishes, evaporates, like that. But in our Upadesha, it's called Mano Nasha. When there's destruction of the individual, I and all that, right? Whichever way you want to say it. What is left is the Purnatvam, fullness, totality. And supreme love also dawns at the same time. So what is bhakti now? Well, Naradaji has taken it to its highest pitch possible. Naradaji really, and this is why Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi, Shankaracharya ji, or everybody who came after, they're speaking in the light of that only. Bhakti means, first of all, total identification with oneself, which results in supreme love. Prem, parama prem. It's not just ordinary prem. Ordinary prem is when I love this object or some other object or things in the world. That they call as prem also. And that's why the word is used so many in filmy songs and all. We have parama prem, supreme love. In this, supreme love in this reality. And that can only happen when there is an identification with the reality. So then in the beginning itself, what is there? Now this is the first sutra, isn't it? I mean, this is the first sutra effectively. That is an introductory sutra. Now we'll expound on bhakti. That's number one. But here in the very first sutra itself, what is there? Bhakti and mukti is one, and if in the first sutra bhakti and mukti is one and same, and we get it, then no need for the next sutra, isn't it? Satu asmin parama prema rupa. Supreme love in this. That is called as bhakti. Now, it would have been nice if in the first sutra, and effectively I'm saying this is the first sutra, if in the first sutra we got it. Well, Naradaji knows that we didn't get it. So he gives more sutras. And nicely also, we can go on thinking, reflecting, and again coming back to this sutra. And this sutra becomes, please see, this sutra becomes like the fulcrum on which the whole Narada Bhakti Sutra balance, the whole text balances. Because the teaching is over. Bhakti and mukti is one and same. That then only parama prem is possible, supreme love. And you please go through all of these lines one by one again. In ordinary life, why I love something. Start like that. Why do I love this thing? Because this thing gives me joy. So then what is the measuring rod that a human being has? Joy only. He has no other measuring rod really. The joy value, joy content, what he calls in ordinary language, right? Start from there and go on and on. Then it will end there. Bhakti is mukti. Mukti is bhakti. Okay, now that state of mukti which we are talking about, right? He says, this is now Sutra number 3. See, what is going to be stated now in this first section where there is a definition and there's, the introduction to the definition and all that, is only that state is going to be described. So very logically, the state is now described. How is it? How is that state? It is, see now, number 3. Amrita Swarupacha. Amrita Swarupacha.
Amrita Swarupacha.
Cha means also, it is Amrita Swarupa. It is of the nature of immortality. Puja Gurudev translates. So, nature of immortality. See, in a state where there is Purnatvam, there is no such thing as mortality, death. There is no such thing as waning. There is no such thing as dying, depreciation, immortality. Some translations tell it is of the nature of nectar. Nectar. Because the Amrita word is usually is sometimes translated as nectar. It is a good translation also. Because just now it is Parama, Prema, Rupa, right? But see, look here, how much joy we get from little things in this world. You think, you go shopping, big, grown person also, he goes shopping and he sees a rubber ducky, yellow color, like brahmachari, yellow duck. When he sees this duck, he remembers, oh, when I was a kid, I had a rubber ducky like this. And he gets so much joy, he buys a rubber ducky and takes it home. And because he bought a rubber ducky, when he goes home, he realizes, I don't have a tub. So he goes and buys a tub now. A rubber ducky gives so much joy. So now, he can get so much joy from this little rubber ducky. And now you think, how much joy he gets from all the various things in this world. And now if he discovers the very source of all joy, the ocean of joy, it will be nectarine for him or not? So translation is a good one. It's like Amrita, like nectar. He gets little nectar, like, the hummingbird comes and a little bit, or the bees, they come and take a little bit of nectar from this flower, a little bit of nectar from there. But human beings are smarter than that. What? We go to the hive and take all the nectar. So this person, instead of getting little bit of joy from this thing, little bit of joy from that thing everywhere, he finds the source, the repository of all joy, the reservoir of all joy. And there, he just, what is it? Nandati? Nandatyeva. Therefore, it called a nectarine. So the Amrita word sometimes is translated as nectarine in nature. Amrita word also literally, mrita. Mre in Sanskrit means to die. Mre. It is a past passive participle of mre, means mrita. And amrita means which never, in our Sanskrit class, is a PPP. Past passive participle. So, it never dies. Means that state is a yad gatva nani vartante. Having reached that state, there is no returning. There's no returning to the cycle of birth and death. So the state of bhakti is the state of mukti, and the state of mukti is immortal. This is deathless. And see, what happens also in the state? You see all the implications. You will have to think now in a class with just 5 days, 6 days, right? We cannot think of all the implications. Okay, let me change that. We can, but we'll be only in number 2. See, one more implication. You just do some reflection on it. See, just how what I identify as me, ordinary jiva. I'm sitting here, ordinary jiva. What do I identify as me? Well, this is me. This is me. My toe is me. So if a stone falls on my toe, I go ouch, and I scream. It brings a sorrow to me. I'm sorrowing. I am having pain. Like that, I say. Immediately, I don't say my toe alone is having pain. So it's okay. I'm having pain. I identify with it. So what we identify with is this body. So in the state of Purnatvam, which is now discussed here, Purnatvam, our identification is with now, because Sarvatma Bhav means I identify with everything. Everything is me. So now what the implication will be, just as I have so much of love and compassion for my toe, and I take the band-aid and everything and I put on my toe, when the stone falls on it, in the same way, the implication is a simple thing. If everything is me now, all the various types of compassion which I had for this body, it will be the same thing extended to the whole universe. That is why Mahatma says by nature. See, Tulsidashi describes Komal Chit Ati Din Dayala Karana Binu Raghu Nath Kripa. Why Bhagwan has compassion for all beings, There's no reason. It is nature. Karana Binu Raghunath Kripala. This person reaches that state. This bhakta. Have you stopped to ask, why do you have compassion for your own toe? No reason. It just is like that. It is just like that only. Of course, if you go deeper, you can see the reasons and all those kind of things, right? I mean to say, when the toe gets pounded, it brings sorrow to me. Therefore, I love. That still doesn't explain why you love your toe. In the final, I say I love because it is me. I mean, I think it is me. I think like that. And so when I identify with the whole world now, like Bhagavan Ram, without reason, nature is compassion. So these are all, like I told, when you study that sutra, which becomes the fulcrum for the whole text, you now, all the implications will come. And that feeling is a nectarine in nature, and that feeling never goes away. It is Amrita. That is the idea. Otherwise, what will happen, Mukti will be a precarious thing. I neither here nor there. I was Mukta yesterday, I don't know what happened. Today, Mukta Swabhav is gone. The Mukti, and see, the proposition which is put forth by the Rishis cannot be something that you slip into and out of. Yesterday, I was good and nice and Mukta. Today, I don't know. I got up on the wrong side of the bed or something. Who will put such a proposition? It is precarious thing. One day Mukta, next day Amukta. No such thing. It's immortal. Amritatva Swarupa. And see, Swarupa, word is used. how I told you the sutras are put together so nicely. See, Swarupa word means what? See, my very nature is bhakti. My very nature is mukti. And while at the same time being deathless. And mukti and bhakti, they are my very own nature. The nature of bhakti is to be immortal, if you want to read like that. So the nature of bhakti is to be nectarine. That is the idea, like this. You read it as a bhakta. So that is my very own nature. Or it is the nature of bhakti. So not what type of bhakti is being spoken about, not the ordinary bhakti. The bhakti, which is very nature, is deathless. Means so the same way I am saying I cannot be mukta today and amukta tomorrow. In the same way, I cannot be a bhakta today and not a bhakta tomorrow. In this meaning of the word bhakti, where it is mukti, I'll have to be and therefore immortal. The bhakti never dies. Amrita Swarupa. Its nature is like never dies. You see? Now, phala is given. Phala means what? Phala means result. When I get it, when I reach this state, what happens? What is achieved? Because people like phala, you know. Just all phala we already told, you know. Not phala, but nature, actually. Implications had some phala, but here now, very in concrete fashion, phala is given. But in this state, what is the result? What happens to that being, that jiva, individual? Yallabdhva puman siddho bhavati amrito bhavati tripto bhavati yallabdhva puman siddho bhavati amrito bhavati tripto bhavati.
Tripto bhavati.
Yallabdhva, having reached that state. And see, this is the language of bhakti, having reached that state, in language of the scriptures also. Yallabdhva, having attained. Let's see what Gurudev has translated. Labdhva, having gained, reached, attained, acquired, like that, labdhva. So that having attained that state, he says, Puman. Puman means man. Man means human being. Person. That person, siddho bhavati, he becomes accomplished. He becomes perfect. Translation is perfect. Accomplished, perfect is reached the end all and be all of life. Whatever was to be achieved, it was achieved. That is the idea. So, having reached that state, now see, the language also is in line with what the jiva thinks himself to be, right? It thinks himself to be BMI, but jiva is not BMI. Jiva is actually Satchit Ananda, but he thinks himself. So the language is in line with that thinking, that he reaches somewhere, but really speaking, he doesn't reach anywhere. Yallabdhva, he doesn't get, how, look here. If the human being forgets that he is a human being and takes himself to be a mouse, right? When he remembers that he is a human being and he's not a mouse, did he achieve anything? If a man takes himself to be a mouse, and then somebody reminds him later on that he is not a mouse, he is a man, does he achieve anything? But he was a man all along. He was never a mouse. That was only a wrong feeling, wrong identification, wrong thought, like that. You see? So when the language is used, yallabdva puman siddho bhavati. Are siddho bhavati means I was perfect all along. The language is being used in the sutra along the lines of the wrong feeling. Therefore, the language is legitimate also. One wife got up in the morning and told her husband, you know, last night I dreamt that you bought me a really beautiful diamond necklace. He said, oh, it was very good. Go back and sleep and then wear it also. Because she was giving a hint, you know, to him that, you know, I dreamt that, so now you should buy here. See, if that expensive thing was in a dream, well, go back in that realm and enjoy that expensive thing also. That is the idea. You don't mix the two realms. That is the idea. So here now also, one type of language is what? The jiva is thinking. This devotee is thinking, I am so bound in this world. I am limited. I am having so many problems, afflictions. I am incomplete. So many things he goes on thinking. Because he has his identification with his body. And so now, because of that, he thinks he has to reach somewhere. So yes, yallabdva puman siddho bhavati amrito bhavati tripto bhavati. When he was all of these things already, he doesn't become anything. But in the language of the feeling, it has to continue like that. So now what is it? Siddhaha bhavati. He says he has it is this is something which is there in all the texts which we study in Vedanta also. When Hanumanji goes to Lanka and sees Sitaji, then he tells there, now whatever I had to achieve, I have achieved. So the scriptures all end like that, telling whatever I have to achieve, I have achieved. So in other words, I have become accomplished. And in our Hindi language and all Indian language, you know, we all have phrase for, in Hindi language, Pahucha hua admi. Pahucha hua admi means he is one who has reached. But where you reached? You reached nowhere. You didn't come from anywhere, so you can't go anywhere also. But that is the language which is springing from his feeling. Siddha bhavati. Then amritaha bhavati. Just now we saw that only. He now discovers his own immortal self. That is the idea. Not that he was not immortal. He was immortal all the time. But he now discovers that thing. Triptaha bhavati. And this is perhaps the best one. Because remember that in our Vedanta, the kama causes karma, and karma, avidya, kama and karma. So avidya causes kama and kama causes karma, like this. That avidya which causes karma, the kama, that avidya is of what? It is of my own nature. Means what? I am ignorant of my own nature. I am ignorant of my own self. That is the avidya we are talking about, right? And that causes karma. And it is that karma now which eternally makes this fellow feel incomplete and so never satisfied. Never triptaha. But now that avidya, which is seated only in ego, that avidya which is seated in antakarna, when that avidya goes, then this karma also goes. And the karma was coming because what? He was thinking, I desire this thing because this thing will give me some joy. But when avidya goes, he realizes, I am joy. My nature is joy only. So when that avidya goes and he discovers my nature is joy, what karma for joy where? So he remains tripta, all the time contented, all the time satisfied, all the time at ease, and no desire for anything. This is the idea. With that supreme state of love, supreme state of bhakti, supreme state of mukti, there he is tripta all the time in a state of contentment. Nitya tripta. That's what he called. Okay, now we reach far, I think. Means I'm going with good pace. I'm actually very proud of myself. I finished 4. But you also have to go on reflecting on all the words. And just finishing 4 in the class is not an indication of anything. In your spare time, you go over the verses. Again, you study them. I mean, the sutras, you study them and reflect and see their implications and all of that. Okay. Okay. And then now we will pick up tomorrow. Same time, same place. Now there is also about questions, something I was seeing there. If you all can keep your questions on last day, I can perhaps deal with them. Okay. All right. Now Anu was also telling about our state with the pandemic and all of that kind of thing. Let us see now when borders open, then I will come and visit you all in. But now you all are getting Jyoti, you know. First you had one Prakash. Now you're getting one Jyoti. From light to light, everything will be going nicely there. But we'll see when I can come to Atlanta. Anyway, we'll all see tomorrow. All right. Now let us just chant for 1 or 2 minutes and then we'll end. Govind Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Govind Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govind Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Hari Govind Jaya Jaya Govind Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Govind Govind Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govind Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govind Jaya Jaya Govind Jaya Jaya Gopal 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 Jaya Jaya Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.